This is Greg Jensen from OptionsANIMAL, and you're watching marketHEIST.com.
Welcome to marketHEIST.com. It's cool to be doing these interviews by webcam, and I think it's really great to talk to people from all over.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I would introduce you guys to Greg Jensen from Utah. I actually met Greg about 3 months ago when I went up to Utah for one of my medical visits, and they have a really cool operation there, so I really want to get them on camera today to talk about it. Greg is the biggest animal at OptionsANIMAL. He's yeah, he is a big guy, big strong guy. Greg's the founder and chief trainer. He's also a professional options investor and author of Spread Trading and an Introduction to Options. So we'll get Greg to talk about that a little later. You're willing to train people who have little or no background, and that's actually how you write your book. You start from the very, very basics of even the market. So why did you take this approach to how you do things?
Well, I think one of the biggest reasons is really how I started. I started investing while I was in college. I was getting my degree actually in engineering, and stumbled upon the stock market. My dad talked to me about it. I fell in love with it. And so I changed my major to finance, tried to specialize as much as I could there. But trading as an average retail investor, I don't have a background on the floor like a lot of the other guys do. I wasn't a pit trader. And so our education is really focused on trying to teach people who are just out there in the market, who are tired of watching their portfolios go up and down and not really having any other control with it other than getting on the phone and talking to their stockbroker or their money manager and saying, hey, what's going on? When I started trading, I had a lot of ups and downs myself, because I didn't really necessarily have any mentor or person to look on, so I bought books. And fortunately for me, I started trading in the 90s, and I had a lot of success. The markets were really bullish. It was really pretty easy. And then when the internet bubble burst, I learned some pretty painful lessons on really how to adjust trades. And in fact, the specific stock I'm remembering is they're still around. They didn't go away completely, but JDSU company.
Yeah.
And I bought the shares. I can't even remember. It was like $120 a share. And I watched them drop to about $20 a share, and I didn't lose any money. Yet I was holding it. I was holding the shares the whole time, but because I was buying long puts, I was selling short calls against it. At the time, I didn't know how to name call the collar trade.
How many people lost money in JDSU and you did it?
Oh yeah, and that to me, I felt I had created the crystal ball. Of course, come to realize it's not always that easy, but it still opened my eyes as to the possibility of combining options with equity positions, where I can take a position in the market and not have the fear that I'm going to lose my whole account because of these wild, kind of the beginnings of my investing. And the idea or the concept of OptionsANIMAL came around from the fact that people started to approach me and said, hey, you're surviving. You're making money in this market. Can you teach me? And so we created OptionsANIMAL with the intent of teaching the average investor, teaching the guy on the street, the small business owner, the doctor who's got a lot of money in the market but doesn't have maybe necessarily time to sit and day trade every day. So that's really kind of where we're at OptionsANIMAL, is we're focused at helping that retail investor.
Would you say it's a good idea for people to start in college on their own, or would you rather they approach somewhere else? Where would they go?
I think college is a great place to start. And the reason why I say that is, the younger you can learn this, the better. I mean, I was the beneficiary, again, 15 years ago to start trading while I was in college. And 15 years later, I'm still under 40, barely. But I can still say that for a few more years. I can... I've got a big road in front of me, whereas, a lot of people are in their mid-50s, early 60s trying to figure this out. Now, that doesn't mean it's too late either. In fact, absolutely. One thing I've learned with, traveling on the country like I have, with talking to people about my book and the different seminars that we do, is that, the average investor wants help right now. They want to find out how to do this themselves because they don't trust other people with their money.
Right. Well, a lot of people also feel they can't trust mentors either, and they want to go at it like you did. So how long would you say it took you to get comfortable that you knew this was for you instead of giving up? I mean, there's so many points along the way that most people just say, I put 5 years into this and I lost whatever, like a year's worth of salary or something, and they just give up.
Good question. I guess let me put it into my perspective. It took me about 5 years and about $800,000 later
No.
to learn what I did.
Well, I guess the other question is, where did you get $800,000?
Well, the 90s was nice to me.
Yeah.
I borrowed some money from my dad to start, and then made a phenomenal amount of money in the 90s, and then turned around and lost a phenomenal amount of money figuring this methodology out.
So most of the time you're making money in the 90s, you weren't really getting professional and knew what you were doing.
I would say it was luck more than anything. I knew that Microsoft made Windows, and I bought long calls on Microsoft, and I made a whole load of money.
What would you say helped you become confident after those 5 years, and especially after having taken such a big hit?
I think the biggest confidence came from learning how to adjust my positions. Before, when I first started trading, the biggest thing I would do is I'd try to take a position, whether it was bullish or bearish. I knew how to, short the market, or I knew how to go long on the market. But I always felt like I had to be perfect on picking direction, and that's quite honestly pretty tough.
Yeah.
Timing is a hard job, especially now. I mean, back then, I look at it 15 years ago, and it was actually really easy then. How quickly markets change now, that's definitely one thing that has changed over the last, I would even say the last 2 or 3 years. The number of individual investors moving into the market and the speed that the market moves with all the black box systems out there. The flash crash a few months ago is a good example of how quickly a market can move, even intraday. So I would say the thing that really gave me my confidence was taking a different twist of thinking about the market. Instead of taking a position of, okay, the market has to go bullish for me to make money, or the market has to go bearish for me to make money. If I can combine trades and take this idea of, if I go put on a bullish position, for example, and the market changes on me, and all of a sudden goes flatline on me to going sideways, instead of using a stop loss to protect my position, which is what a lot of traders do, I adjust my trade. So I change it from a bullish position into a stagnant position. And that really just comes from knowledge of what the options instruments are, how to change them, and taking a little bit different view and a little more patience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people love to do that, to be wrong and still make money or not lose, right?
Yeah, I've got a good example that I actually bought First Solar last year, similar to the JDS Uniphase position, but I bought First Solar. It's one of the trades we do. We send out these trades to our students. We call them animal trades once a month, which is really just the idea behind it is to show them our methodology. We're not giving them investment advice, but it's to show them our methodology of trading. And I bought First Solar at 170. I sold it at 130, and I made about $3. And I was going bullish. I was going bullish the whole time. I never once took a bearish position.
Well, Greg, I think we're running a little short on time on this video, but could you give our viewers a quick advice for those who are struggling to improve their performance?
I would say the number one thing is education. Knowledge is power, particularly in this day, and you need to be as educated as you can possibly be, and learn all the different tools that are available to you as a trader.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg. We'll have Greg on in the next video to talk about OptionsANIMal and pick his brain about how he created that. So stick around and look for that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.